Hi, Dan. It's an honor to be talking to you. How are you doing today?
I am doing very fine, actually. A little bit overworked. We have been taking care of all the orders we received for the Purgatory Afterglow LP and T-shirt bundle we started selling some months ago. And yeah, it's a two-man operation. It's my wife's company, but I help out. And this I've been signing, packing, and it's like, and on top of this, of course, I've been mixing and mastering
Yeah, it's
music,
been
which is my profession. So yeah, we are both a little bit like, oh, let's never do that again. But I know we will. The next time we will do it again, packing hundreds and hundreds of vinyls. And yeah, but it's cool. I do it for the fans or the whatever. I think the fans is a weird word, but the people who like our music, I do it for them because it's clearly a need for this kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's for sure. And you keep still loving what you're doing, I guess. So, I mean, can't be that much of a bother.
no, I mean, it could be worse. I could be that I had a side hustle selling shoes or whatever. I don't know, but I'm lucky to always work with the things I love.
Yeah, yeah, that's a spirit. And in 2024 is a celebration year for you with the re-release of Nightingale's One and Nightfall Overture, and also Edge of Sanity's Purgatory Afterglow and Nothing But That Remains. What compels you to re-release these classic albums?
Well, I wanted to re-release and remix and remaster all my records pretty much from the next day they were ready. That's just in my spirit. But in this case, it was mainly because we finally found a label that was willing to go through with this campaign in a way that especially I felt it needed to be done. Because when it comes to this kind of thing, it's really that you have to invest just a little bit more than what you thought was possible to make it that much better than the original. All these completely pointless remixes and remasters with even shittier album cover, resolution than the original and all this. This is not for me. That's purely a cash grab. This is for me. It was important that I could spend as much time and money as I needed with every single release to make it so much better than the original that was humanly possible with me in charge, so to speak. And yeah, I was lucky that we found a partner in Century Media, and I've been spending an insane amount of time with anything from, there's a whole detective work that goes on also behind the scenes, finding things to make these reissues worth having for the fans. Let alone some pages in the booklets costed a lot of money just to get a hold of some memorabilia, to get new photos, to get stuff that no one ever saw before. So there is this extreme, for me, it's an extreme work of passion, because I feel that I'm closer to death than I am to the other side, and that there's a lot of people not far away from my age who all of a sudden dropped dead of heart attacks and all this, and some really close friends, people who were involved even with this reissue, just one morning you say, oh, they're dead. Wow. So it makes one question my musical legacy. And there was always this is not how I want to leave these albums. I want them there. I want there to be a version of it, which is my vision, how I wish it would have been all the years, in terms of layout, in terms of sound, in terms of most things that I can just fix without actually re-recording anything, because that's also for me a no-go. This is what I have a big problem with, but using what is there and just restore it like a piece of fine art or a movie, or something that you can, with modern technology, you can enhance the vision that, in this case, me and my guys in the band had in the beginning, and now it can finally become this what it should have been. all the time. And that is my motivator. It was not something like, oh, let's wait until Purgatory Afterglow is 30 or something like this. I actually delayed the whole campaign because I felt I was not ready to go through with what it meant. So the whole schedule had to be reworked, and I'm sure that the label was not happy with me. But I said, this means so much to me that I just cannot do it and not feel that I gave it 101% the moment I delivered the things. And also, of course, when you receive now the final product, it's all joy. In the old times with Black Mark, it was all sadness because nothing turned out the way it should, because of course in the 90s you didn't have the possibility to control things the way you have now. But I've been there every step on the way, and it's fantastic the way that it is to release albums these days, with the amount of, I have everything under control.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
I mean,
what I needed to have,
You are much a more renowned artist now than you were back in the day as well. So I mean, that probably also helps.
Yeah, and I mean this. I don't see how it could have been done any better, and that's the scenario I wanted to be in. I didn't want to receive the finished product and then sit there and think, oh, I wish this could have been done that way. I wish I had the money to do it this way. No, that I cannot really see, because we are backed by Sony, which is the owner of Century Media, and their distribution net, their everything, their know-how and this and that. So, and I didn't want anyone else to be doing anything in any other way. So for me, it's just, this is the optimal thing. And look, within the coming years, if all goes according to plan, there will be a lot of them. And that's that then, I feel that my musical legacy, a big chunk of it have been restored to this state that I personally feel that it should have been in all the time. But of course, sometimes my own limitations, I couldn't mix an album to sound as good in 94 that I could do in 24. So this is just how things, the evolution of things,
Yeah, and it's a very funny thing, as you were saying, it's not the 20th or the 30th anniversary of any of these albums, These days you are used to see that re-releases are only kind of a celebration of these albums in their birthdays. It's kind of funny that you didn't kind of delayed it even further to not do it.
Yeah, but I think Purgatory Afterglow and Until Eternity Ends actually have a 30th anniversary, but there was never any, because when I delayed the whole project, another album was supposed to be the 30th anniversary, because we are lucky that they were released in the years. So there will be accidental 35 here for the band this year, but I just don't see that you should re-release an album every 10 years because it's been 10 years. I just don't get the concept. But when a label see that they could get a little bit extra money by doing the 50th anniversary of that album that had the 20, 30, and 40 anniversary editions already, it's like, okay, what's then there to do? Yeah, we found some new pictures and there's this extra new thing that they came up with in this day and age is Atmos, I guess. And at another time it was surround, and at another time it was quad sound, like God knows what. First, of course, the CD was the thing, and then they released it on Super CD, and then it was released on high def on Blu-ray, God knows what, and I just wanted to do it right the first time. And any other remasters or re-releases of these albums have been done in a way that it was okay. Their existence was justified, but I was never really happy with the way they looked. And many of them I had nothing to do with. All of a sudden there was a reissue and the colors were all wrong. And it just some really weird shit happening with the vinyl that the songs are cross-fading into each other. It sounds terrible, but I was never informed, and they are still out there, being sold. So I was really, so I have to have the last say in everything when it comes to stuff. And even in some cases, listening to test pressing of the vinyl before, okay, that's done, we can move forward and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's how you build your reputation as well. always focusing on what's really important. That's the music in itself.
Yeah, there is, but it's an extra thing, you know. I've always tried to be as careful and you know, just do my very fucking best, regardless if it's the first demo with a band or if it's the 15th album with a famous band. But when it's my own stuff, you have both the musician who wrote it, the engineer who recorded it, the guy who mixed it, and also the artist who's then in charge of the whole grand vision. It's so many different aspects that I am completely fucking over and out after one of those sessions. And it's not just one album, it's really it's more all the time. You know, you have to remix and remaster all this stuff, and I try to do it every now and then when I have the vibe for it. And luckily I'm allowed also with the time schedule to not just do it like in a factory, because it's important that I feel that I'm on top of my game, mentally and physically and everything when I work with them. And there are some false starts with all these reissue things. There were I transferred the master tapes for some of the albums long ago, and I've been dabbling with trying to remix them just for fun, you know. And I read that a really famous recording and mixing engineer said the best thing you can do when you don't have a new project is to open some old project and just clear it and start over, and just with a completely different mindset, just remix a song just for fun. Nobody never needs to hear it, you know. So I've been dabbling with remixing some of these Edge of Sanity albums for years, and always felt, fuck, this is going to take a lot of work that I'm not willing to do at the moment to get this to the next level, meaning that I would need a budget like it was really an album with a band, not just me having one day try to remix the whole album. You know, I need weeks, maybe even months, and I need really good assistant engineers to take care of some of the workload with the boring process that needs to be done to take the material to the next level. Sometimes it's just about cleaning stuff up that was, you know, that there are super boring things like too much headphone spill, you know, when you have a vocal recording and there's just too much of the music bleeding into the singing microphone. This makes it almost impossible to work with the vocal sound. So you would need to do the volume down pretty much between every fucking word you sing. And that take fucking days to do, because you have to do it manually. There is no software clever enough to understand the difference of what is me singing and what is the noise, because it's, you know, that kind of boring tech shit. Otherwise, you are stuck with this, what you had the first time, you know. So there's a lot of that. You know, sometimes when I see people restoring an old painting, and you see they sit there with like the top corner and making the red look like the red must have looked like 400 years ago, and you see they have like 2 meters left, and I think, yeah, that's the fucking job you have to do. If you want to see the whole painting the way it looked when it was done, that's how you do it, you know? And that's what I did.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy, you know, the remastering and remixing the albums with the recovering the paintings and everything. A very, very good analogy.
Thank
But
you.
I also think that these albums were no longer available in the market, right? I mean, there were no copies whatsoever.
They were not available in a way that represented even the original release in terms of sound quality and cover artwork quality. So it was definitely long overdue, especially in the Nightingale case, that these albums will be made available again. And there is no way that anyone who isn't completely anti-social will not have the possibility to get a hold of these albums. We have distribution everywhere. And where we don't have distribution, there are people with licensing deals just banging on the door from Century Media, from any market that normally would have to import. They will release also, I think, for example, Japan is maybe interested and this and that, you know. So there is nobody, oh, I didn't know that you were re-releasing this shit. That could have happened. on the other scale, because Black Mark was operating on a whole other level. And this time, I will not buy it that no one knew that this was not happening, Then you're actively trying to avoid knowing anything. Because we had the whole fucking, it was so cool. There's a magazine called Death Forever. And on the front, it was the guy from Leprosy, from Death. And on the other side of the cover was all the Edge of Sanity and Nightingale stuff. The whole back page was this. And I don't think I ever had a full color back of a magazine ever in my career. There's always been like other bands there, and you had maybe a third, but this was full on only albums I had done. And the final thing was that Leprosy is pretty much the reason why I became a death metal guy. And the reason I became a death metal guy is why everything else in my life happened. So it was such a weird moment to say, oh, cool, that's on the front. And what the fuck? That's on the back? I had no idea that they were bringing out really the big guns, to make an advertising on a full A4 page on the back of a really big magazine. I thought, wow, this is the shit, this is how it's done, So no one will, I didn't see that you re-released it. Then you're, I don't know what,
Living under a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the power of Century Media, and of course also the Sony Music and the home group and everything. They are really, really good at that stuff. And I guess that was the main reason that led you to choose the Century Media to re-release these albums.
Yeah, I think honestly, when I signed with Century Media as an artist it started already around 2012, but I think we finalized the deal around 2013. They were still independent label, but they were still doing stuff when they were re-releasing something. Could be some obscure demo collection. The attention to detail and the way stuff looked when you received, I got some of the stuff because I did the remastering or whatever. And I think, wow, this looks like a fucking major label super reissue with all cool things there with posters and this and that. And, they just had this vibe about it. That I'm so happy I'm on this label. And when I found out that they were being bought up by Sony, I was first like, I wonder what's going to happen there now. But it turns out that Sony is just more like, of course there have been changes, but it's more like they liked what they were doing already, and they want to take it up a notch and allow for this to happen on a whole other scale. Like Inside Out could sign Dream Theater. That would never have happened if Sony wasn't really, bankrolling the whole idea. And I just love the idea that that's the muscle you have when it's needed. But Century Media is operating in a way, but now there is this possibility to just let things be on a whole other scale. And when you are playing with the big guys, you know also how to do that stuff in a smaller scale. And that's why I have always liked to work with corporations that work on this super scale. Also, their smaller versions, there's the know-how in the whole company, how to do things on the mega scale. They also know how to do stuff better on a more normal scale, So to be on a small label that never even had an album in the charts or whatever, that might be charming and cool. But when you accidentally have a hit on your hands, the best example is this: what happened with the label from Offspring and this, back in the 90s, where the bands all of a sudden had super hits and they went fucking bankrupt because there was no way they could print all the records that people wanted. That's a thing. And I've been there with these small labels. So to be on Century Media and now even with the backing from Sony, I think that's a fucking jackpot, because the vibe is still there. I'm still in touch with my same A&R guy, someone I've known since 1992. And the boss is the guy that I was in touch also with, as an A&R guy for some obscure death metal projects. He is the boss now, so it's not like I'm dealing with some person who don't know who I am. These guys know probably more who I am than I know myself, you know?
Yeah, they really make a great job. I mean, at
Yeah,
everything they do, basically.
they
And
do.
you know, these albums, despite their undeniable quality, they still remain at some of the most obscure of your career, I think. At least I didn't. I personally, I never heard of them before these re-releases. Do you think that now with all this big promo stuff and everything, this will be their time to shine?
Well, I think that the way that the campaign is somehow put together is that every artist and every band have always, they have their really the hit records, and then they have the weird, obscure, strange records. And because we are releasing things in a group, there's always a more successful release backing up the more obscure ones, because the way we see it as a release package is that it's not all about what this one album is selling, it's how all are selling. No one is gonna go into the finest of details. So I know this from some other, I used to work in retail for a really long time, selling equipment and stuff, you know. And as long as you look at how are we doing with electric guitars this quarter, it's super, it's up 14%. That's it, that's fine. But that you lost money on that weird Gibson you bought that was pink and no one bought it, you made all that money back on this super cool looking black BC Rich with a skull on it that you sold to every second teenager who walked through the door. No one is going to fire you because you ordered the wrong pink expensive guitar. They're just going to see you're doing a good job. So that's the way that Century Media have done a really clever release plan, where there is a lot of thought going into which album is backing up the other one, you know? So there is never going to be like, wow, here's all the most successful albums in one go, boom. There's always going to be an obscure album like the I record from Nightingale, who was never on vinyl before and pretty much stopped being printed in 2000, I don't know, 5 or something like that. That one is there riding on the back of something like Purgatory Afterglow, which is one of our most successful albums. So they're always going to be this, you know, helping each other. The vibe is great. And also cool for me that they get to ride along with the big guns. You know, the next, you know, you see this album is getting the same kind of promo space like that super famous album because they're in the same ad, you know. But when they would be released one by one, you would never take out a full page ad for one of the obscure records, and they would remain super obscure. Even when they are re-released, only the diehards would buy them, and maybe they would not even know that it's out because there is no money in advertising. So it's also a really clever campaign, you know, the way it's done, and I like that it shines a light on the obscure stuff.
Yeah, that's a very smart way to do it as well. Now, focusing more on Nightingale's eye. Originally, it ended up with breathing. Now, this release had 7 extra songs. When did you record and write these extra songs that are now available as well?
Oh man, I don't have this. I don't know what's on it anymore, to be brutally honest. Uh, this here, I know that we are having a cover version from, I think, Steelin is on there, which is was recorded for a Uriah Heep tribute by was released on Century Media, which was also one of the first times we get to know the vibe of having an album actually, you know, being released by them and being on it. And I think it's actually pretty cool.
You have Rahib's cover of Stealing, and also a cover from Dust, or like from a dry
Oh
camel.
yeah, that's also a cool. We were Dust is one of the bands that my 2 older brothers listened to a lot when I was a kid. I mean, really young, when I was like, I don't know, 2 years old or 3 years old. And I don't know if you know Dust, but it's the album cover for the first album is, I think it's taken from the catacombs somewhere with there's a bunch of skeletons still in their suits. That looks, it's a real photo and it looks super scary. And I was super afraid of that record when I was a little kid. So my first connection with Dust is fear, you know? And there's a song on there called From a Dry Camel, which is one of the first songs that I remember because it's a super easy song. It's based around 4 chords and it's just going on and on and on. And it's got this very special vibe to it. And I remember that after I quit my studio in 1997, I sold all the gear to a guy who tragically later died in the tsunami. He was also in the band Nazum, Mieszko Talarczyk. And it was weird because we went to his studio with all my old gear to record this, what I think was a song we meant for a compilation on Black Mark with cover versions. They did this for a while. Mm-hmm. And we never finished it because there was a couple of drum fills that I just couldn't do. You know, it's they sound simple when you listen to the album, but this drummer was a beast, and I just couldn't play that kind of stuff, and especially not when I was being recorded, and especially not when it was with my brother, who was like my hero, still is, you know. And I thought, so we just recorded the song, but we never did the drum fills, and somehow it just, you know, you have this huge disappointment and it was never being ready. So it was there. And when I went through the material, it's all a bit of a chaos of what I have kept through the years on various hard drives dating back to the turn of the millennium. And all of a sudden I saw From a Dry Camel and I think, oh, fuck, that's the Dust song we never finished. And then I listened to it and then I realized, if I only could get the drum fill somehow in there. And so the song is ready. It was kind of a rough mix without the drum fills. So I just added the drum fills using, you know, modern technology. And voila, it was there. And I think it's pretty cool, actually. And that's also one of the things I could never have done that kind of stuff. I mean, spend a day on a bonus track without getting paid for it. That's just not working. But since I have a budget, you know, I think, oh, fuck it. Let's do it now. Let's resurrect this one and some other stuff that's been lying around. And I think maybe the other bonus stuff is the Swedish originals.
Yes, there's some Swedish
of my
names,
brother's
like
songs.
Kajard and Vakra Saker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they are the reason why Nightingale was resurrected one more time. Because I was visiting my brother and Nightingale was dead and gone. And he was just re-recording his old songs. They were a couple of years old at that time, or I don't know, between 5 to 10 years old maybe. And he had updated his equipment, and he you know, the sound just got better and beefier. And I remember he playing me some stuff, and I think, fuck, this sounds really cool. Wow, this song is really, really dark, and it's got a vibe that was completely lost on me on the old recordings. And all of a sudden, we got this idea, maybe I could just do English lyrics to this, and they would be Nightingale songs. You know, they would be perfect. And I said, yeah, I have a few songs that I have written for other projects that just wasn't right for that project in the end. And so we just took stuff from the past and some stuff that I've been writing for other stuff, and bam, we have another Nightingale record. It was just all decided in like 20 minutes. So those are extremely important. And it's important for me that the diehard Nightingale fan get to hear how similar they are to the original in some ways, you know, that the version that my brother did when he was in his, I think, some of them, he was really young when he recorded.
Yeah, I mean, that's the magic of these re-releases, you know, on these little stories that each of these songs carry. Besides this bonus, there's also in some, or in all of them, I think, a second CD with some rough mixes and live versions. remixes, whatever. And why did you say to include that as well?
Every CD release will be a 2 CD. And it will never be available in digital streaming or on vinyl. So it's really the CD only. And that's where shit can get really obscure. And I think for the iRecord, it's the rough mix.
Yeah, and also
And
some live versions as well.
Yeah, as many of the live versions of the songs from the album. And there are some weird remixes that I did a couple of years after the album. And that kind of stuff is it's just so magical because that's what I love about my favorite bands. For example, my favorite band is Marillion, and they just released an anniversary version of my favorite record with them, and there are some bonus stuff which is on the level of so nerdy. It's like when the singer who wrote a part of a song recorded it for the very first time on his dictaphone, this little recording device, like lying somewhere, and he played the stuff and sang to it the moment he wrote it. That shit is on the bonus. That's what I want. I want to hear when he wrote that piece of music in 1988 in his fucking bedroom or whatever. Nothing is too nerdy for me when it comes to this. And imagining that there is at least one person in the universe who think it would be so cool to hear some of this weird nerdy shit that I could never really do on YouTube. I could never really do it anywhere else because the song is copyrighted. There is publishing, there is stuff connected to it. It would just remain on my fucking hard drive. And I thought, oh, thank God that we can do this obscure CD too. Then I can just bring out the weirdest of shit because it's all cleared up, the Sony guys will take care of paying the person for this strange rehearsal version instrumental of this weird song that half of it was never ready or whatever. And if I can release that kind of shit, I am the happiest person ever because I know it's obscure and strange, but that's what this shit is for. That's what the second CD should be all about. The really strange stuff.
Yeah, and how did you fish on that? How did you find on that stuff? Was it a hard thing to do?
I mean, I am really a collector in this kind of stuff, and my brother is even worse in a positive sense. He is the guy who kept all the CDRs that I sent him. I sent him like one every day with a new version of Scarred for Life or stuff like this. He kept everything, and he digitized it at one point, and he even kept the physical CDs in some cases. And I just asked him, what you have? It's like, yeah, I have this. And he had all the weirdest shit. And yeah, like this rough mix of I is something I didn't know existed. I was going through my DAT tapes and I was just recording all the DAT tapes while I was doing other things into another computer on a hard drive because I thought, oh, this is the last time I find a good DAT machine, so I just better transfer everything. And then I was just scrolling through all the shit and I was like, why is the iRecord on this and why does it sound better? And I realized, fuck, it's a rough mix. These vocals are missing and this is different. And it's like I mixed the whole album almost. And then I realized everything sucks. Let's start over, And that's when it really started to not sound so good anymore. So I really wanted this rough mix to be released because I think it's got something, but it's nothing you could ever really sell, or you know what I mean? It's like, that's really a bonus. It's an alternative thing for the diehards. And yeah, it's been a lot of work, like I said before, with everything. Also photographs. And I mean, I've paid more money for some photographs than some labels were willing to pay for the whole reissue. So yeah. That's just the weird shit there. I said, nope, if I don't have a budget and I cannot buy the original photo from that album cover or whatever, it's not happening, So yeah, it's been worth the wait, I can tell you.
The information I could gather online is that Nightingale are still active, unlike Edge of Sanity. Can we expect new music from any of these bands in the future?
No, not in. I would say never, but not now. This is one of my heroes, Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, who sadly died a couple of years ago. This is what he told his bandmates when they asked if they were going to continue. Age of Sanity is dead and gone since I left the band in 97 and they quit in 1999. Then it was this strange album that I did under the Age of Sanity name in 2003, but officially Age of Sanity is history. And Nightingale is in some kind of self-induced coma, because I really have a problem with this. I feel that when you really make a clear cut and say, fuck this, we are not a band anymore, things just be weird. We are just not doing anything. But if there was an offer that is some really cool, God knows what, then we could technically get our asses together and get out on stage. That's nothing stopping us. But it would need to be one hell of an offer, I can tell you that. And musically, I feel that I cannot, given the time I have in my life at the moment, I could not even write one song that's better than anything on the Retribution album. And then I don't feel the need for it to exist. I respect bands who need to release stuff because that's how they make their living. But none of the members from Nightingale are in any way making a living from their music. So there is no need to release it only to, go on tour or whatever. So in this case, I'm just gonna go with Neil Peart's saying and say, never say never, but not now.
Yeah, and what about your other projects? I mean, you are one of the most active musicians in the world right now. What can we expect from?
I haven't been active since 2015, I think, or I don't even remember, but I haven't done really anything since the second Witherscape album came out. And it was a conscious decision where I had to really choose again between my career as a musician or a mix and mastering engineer, because it was clear to me that it's not possible to do both. There is just no fucking way. And the only thing that really gives you any payment these days worth, so you can have a normal life is not being a musician in my case, because I hate touring, I hate playing live. And that's not really the way to be when you want to be an artist today. You have to love, almost be fucking addicted to playing live and touring.
Yeah.
That needs to be your life. Otherwise, you can just forget it. And it's a very, very sad way that the progress of the music industry, that it's back to this, to be out touring all the time, and the money is in the merch and if you sell vinyl or whatever. But I saw it already with the record sales and all this, that there's no way that anyone can give me a budget so I can write and record and mix and master and support an album. I would be bankrupt, and that's not a motivator in my world.
Yeah, I get it. Well, then I think that's it. Was an honor. Would you like to send any message to your Portuguese fans?
Yeah, I love fucking Portugal. It's the best. We were driving around Portugal, me and my wife and our dog, a couple of years ago, and we started out in Porto, and we flew Lisbon down to the Algarve there, and I have great memories there. And I love the coffee that you guys drink, and with this little pasta de Natal or something like this little cake. I think it's super traditional tourist stuff. Oh, Portugal, it's all about fucking galao and this little cake. But
the people are great and the food is awesome.
Yeah, but it was really cool. We also saw a little bit not so tourist vibey. We were visiting because we were just driving around in a car. We just said we had to sleep here somewhere, and then we just found some cool village. We're far off the traditional tourist routes, and because my wife wanted to revisit some places where she was, when she was young. You know, she went to Portugal on holidays, and yeah, it was really, really nice. And it's one of those places where we will definitely go back, because you know it's got this vibe. It's a little bit of both worlds. You know, it's not that extreme in one, and I just think it's super. And I'm not so sure really if there was, you know, if there is a big following of my bands and projects in Portugal, but I guess that there is some kind of an underground. Yeah, but it's I never played there, never had any offers from there, but it is what it is, you know. And yeah,
the metal
I am
music scene
happy
has
for
been quite dead for some years. Now it's kind of reviving again with a new generation, but it's been
yeah.
quite
I
dead for a
actually
few
worked
years.
with I worked with some Portuguese artists doing some mixing and some mastering, and one of them is called Vanity Nemesis. It's one of those one-man projects, which is pretty cool. And other than that, I think that's pretty much it. But I know some Portuguese stuff. You know, Moonspell is of course obvious. They've been around for a while, and yeah, it's super. And I'm like, regardless of where you live or anything, I'm super grateful for anyone listening. And I just saw that the Black Tears video that I spent, you know, again, you know, we were, I sent the two of the guys who still live in Sweden, I sent them to the Black Mark headquarters, which is still there, you know, but it's in the state that it could just be gone in any minute. I say, we have to go back one last time to see if there's some cool unreleased photos or anything, you know, bring back those tapes and find whatever they saved. And the weird shit is that they saved everything from the whole career of Boss, who sadly died a couple of years ago. There's stuff there from, I don't know, from the 60s, you know. He was in the industry for a long time. And they just came back with a whole car full of stuff. And they found the original Betacam version of the Black Tears video. And I had already sent my super shitty VHS copy to transfer digital to a place in Berlin. And I'm like, oh, fuck, you found the fucking original, you know? And so we had that one was sent here, and it was sent to try to find someone who have a good Betacam SP player who could transfer it top notch. Was not easy, but I finally found a guy here in Germany, close to the Dutch border, and he transferred it, and it was like, wow, the sound was crap, but the picture was super. So we put the remastered sound on it, you know, got the right codec, and now it's up on YouTube, and in a couple of days only have more than 10,000 views. And for me, that's insane. It means that 10,000 people watched that video that's been there for a long time, you know, and think, wow, there is an interest for this, you know. It's fucking amazing. But it was just, I felt that I have to give also the bonus content, whatever, you know. I've been sending VHS tapes and shit from Sweden to me. I sent it there, I sent them back to get some obscure fucking gig we did in 1990 with the best possible quality to go on YouTube later, you know? So that there are no stones left unturned. Anything that has to do with the legacy of Nightingale and Edge of Sanity will be restored and remastered, from fucking photographs to video content, and of course to sound, you know? So it's a big thing.
Yeah, it's an enormous project. It gave
really
you a lot of work for sure.
Yeah, I'm busy for a couple of more years.
Yeah,
that's for sure.